Hello, race fans. Welcome to Side Draft Media. This is Don. I am your host with my co host, Ryan. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it so much. Man, do we have a show to unpack for you guys? We're talking everything Richmond Raceway. Of course, most of y'all have already heard everything that's happened with Richmond. So we're going to get into that here in just a second. Of course, we want to give out a shout out to our amazing sponsor, Tuckered Out Custom Diecast Displays. He makes these 3D printed custom displays. As you can see, Ryan's got his Christopher Bell set up. Absolutely love it. I've got my 2311 set up. Mr. Don Tucker can make them to order. Any team you want, any color, as many tiles as you want, as many cars as you want to fit on it, whatever logos you want to add into it, he will take care of you. We will post his links down here in the description of this video. If you guys are interested, just check out those links, get in touch with him, and he will take care of you. Like I was saying before, we have a little bit of some stuff to unpack. And, Ryan, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you, man. What do you got for me?
Oh, thanks, Don. Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot to unpack is right. We had a great race at Richmond all together, and then everything kind of just imploded at the end,
Absolutely.
with how the finish was. But we had our tire option strategies. We had the JGR engine woes continue. We had somebody who we thought was dominant early on, and Christopher Bell, and that didn't work out too well for him because he had the speeding penalty on pit road. Was hard to overcome that. He still had a top 10 finish, but couldn't get back up to the point. And then we have the guy who seems to be the man of the hour in Austin Dillon, who was consistently fast all weekend.
He was really
He
fast
came
this weekend.
Yeah, the three team just really hit their stride at Richmond. Fast in qualifying, he was fastest in practice. He was very, very consistent as far as pace is concerned throughout the entire race. In stage three, we saw him overtake Denny Hamlin for the lead. And he kind of drove away with it until the caution with 2 laps to go, and kind of re-racked everything and set us up for the wild finish that we saw. Um, Lots of controversy coming from this, so we can unpack that, and we are going to unpack that because wow. Yeah,
Just
so
wow.
yeah, just wow. I mean, and I want to say this is kind of great for our sport too, because everybody is talking about this right now. It's hit national headlines. As far as the finish that we saw, again, we thought the 3 car had it wrapped. Under 2 laps to go, he had already taken, with two coming around for the white flag. Let's set it up there because going into turn one, right in front of Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse and Ryan Preece get together. Now Stenhouse was behind Preece, looked like he drove straight into him for whatever reason. I don't know. A lot of speculation that there's the ties that happened earlier on in the season where Ricky Stenhouse and Kyle Busch had their run in, and Richard Childress, the team owner of Richard Childress Racing, that Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon drive for, had been very outspoken against Ricky Stenhouse.
Right.
So I don't know if that had anything to do with that accident, and none of us may ever know, but it certainly looked fishy because it really looked like Stenhouse just didn't turn, and just went right into Priest. They wreck, accident, re-rack. Now we can revisit this option tire thing because that was great. I mean, the tire strategies that we saw drivers on early on in the race. We saw Daniel Suarez. He kind of flipped his race in the beginning, going to the red set of tires, the option tire that had more grip and more speed out of it. He got there first before some of these other drivers really started to do that. We saw him drive right through the field to the lead, and his Trackhouse 99 was really fast too this weekend. I mean, he had a good car, but he also took full advantage of those tires and nobody else being on him. I mean, he looked like Superman out there and just whew, like he was racing on easy mode compared to everybody else and just drove right past everybody, took the lead. So we saw that the tire strategy in his case worked as far as flipping where he was in the field towards the back to middle of the pack to the back to the front. And we then saw him take that lead and then go into an area of where it set up for the rest of everybody else. When was the rest of the field going to jump into these red letter tires that are faster and see it play out? Christopher Bell was dominant early on. He stayed on those yellow letter regular tires for a long time, and them and other teams that were in contention for the win seemed to want to hold on to those red letters in case things happened later on in the race,
Right.
which we saw happen because when that late caution came out, when Stenhouse and Priest got together, everybody came in that had a set of those red letter tires and put those on. You
Yep.
had to, otherwise you're going to get run over.
Right.
And I was like, we saw when Suarez was on him and nobody else was. But it kind of equaled things out. And then we see the end of the race play out the way it did.
And I just want to elaborate on the tire option real quick, because that was a really special thing for us to witness. For Goodyear to have short track struggles with these tires earlier in the season, and to fast forward all the way to Richmond in the summertime, these tires did really well. We didn't see anybody with tire issues, and these guys were driving straight up driving the tread off of them, so to speak. The fall off wasn't that bad. Whether you were on yellows or reds, now obviously the reds did show much more speed, but I thought the fall off was going to happen a lot quicker, and it really didn't seem like those reds really struggled. I mean, we didn't see one image of worn out tires when they went in to change sets or whatnot. There was no cameras on top of the tire showing cording or anything like that. So hats off to Goodyear and NASCAR for putting on an incredible display with the tire package, with the options, and the way the drivers and the teams utilized them. 100%.
Yeah, and I think it's something that they're going to visit again in the future.
I hope so.
No doubt, because it did make for interesting strategy. Really, the biggest thing I think that they brought these tires in was to create more passing opportunities on a short track. And I want to say that I think the racing was even really good on the yellows.
Yeah.
That drivers were able to pass. So
there was a ton of passing yesterday.
Yeah, NASCAR continues to work on, and the teams continue to work on these short track packages to where they can get the most out of these cars, and it's not a follow the leader type of race.
Right.
And last night we definitely saw no follow the leader. Nobody really pulled away. There was no, even though, like I said, dominant car from the 20 team early, there wasn't that big of a gap. Everybody was able to keep pace with one another as far as those. It really seemed like the 20 and the 11 of Hamlin were the class of the field a little bit early on in that and the start of the race.
Surprise, JGR,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked in our preview episode about Toyota Playground for Richmond Raceway, and there was, that didn't stop this weekend. The Toyotas did show up. The JGR cars were good. They were all there. And we talk about the engine woes, and I do want to revisit that. That was one of the key points. But we talked about one of the JGR teams, the 19 car of Martin Truex Jr. Unfortunately had an engine issue. He came on the radio. Said I'm blowing up, I think, and then he goes, "Yep, I'm blowing," and it was it. And he said he really didn't have any indication of blowing up, except it started to miss, and then it just it was over.
By that time he had lost pace, and he was already rolling down pit road to see what the deal was.
Yeah, and all that happened within about a lapse time. So
right.
It's not even like he could limp through it. It just so I don't know what the cause of that engine issue is. We certainly need to dig around some more. I don't even know if Toyota and JGR has released that information yet. But again, these engine issues is something that they need to figure out before the playoffs, because this is just that can totally tank your season in one of these playoff races.
In a real hurry
N-
too, and the worst time to happen is on one of those cutoff races. You don't lose an engine plus 15 in points, end up 33rd, and lose your team lose their next round of the playoffs. They
well,
got
I
to,
mean,
yeah, Toyota's got to get it figured out, man. That's crazy.
yeah, I mean, Truex finished dead last
Yep.
in this race, and lost a chunk of that cushion that he had coming into the playoff cutoff. Now he was plus 100 something. Now he's plus in the 80s. I think like plus 81,
We
but
were
still,
just 2 weeks ago. We were talking about Martin Safe. Martin Safe. He's got a 140-point lead,
yeah,
and fast forward to right now, and he's in danger of possible if he has two more bad finishes. Who
yeah,
knows, man?
anything's possible at this point. With the playoffs looming, we have 3 races left until we're there, and yeah, I mean, bad runs, bad a streak of bad luck, and
Yep.
it could jeopardize him getting into the postseason, especially if we have some more new winners, like we just had this past weekend. That really just man, that just changed the whole playoff picture,
Right.
with Austin Dillon and Richard Childress Racing securing a playoff spot with this win. At least as of now, we have
Right.
we'll talk about that in a bit, but I believe that uh, JGR, Martin Truex, they're going to try to right this ship, and obviously the goal is always to try to win yourself into the postseason. That's the easiest way in, right? Then you don't have to worry about it. That's the format NASCAR created. They want to award the winners, and so that's the easiest and fastest way to lock yourself into the postseason is to go out and win. So I'm sure they're not giving up, but Toyota, you gotta be scratching your head. And if you're a fan of a Toyota driver, you gotta have that in the back of your mind. I'm sure these car chiefs and crew chiefs and drivers are certainly, hey, what's going on, because this we've seen it too much of recent, and yeah, definitely something I think to keep an eye on, especially as we roll into a track like Michigan, high horsepower. You need that power. That is a 2 mile intermediate track, so the horses have got to be working and firing all eight, and hopefully they got it right, and can move forward from this.
That's
Um,
officially 4 different drivers that have suffered from engine failure in the Toyota camp. That Toyota camp is not big, so 4 cars, and then multiple on multiple occasions these guys have lost engines. We're talking about Ty Gibbs, back-to-back weeks we've seen him lose one of those Toyota engines, and it's just not, man, that, like you said, is a
mhm.
perfect term, is head scratcher. What in the heck is going on in that
Yeah,
garage with
yeah,
Toyota? So definitely will be interesting to follow that moving forward.
absolutely, absolutely. We get into uh, this finish. I mean, we got a lot of unwrap here. There's so much going on, and so obviously we know Austin Dillon won the race. That's what the record shows is the 3 car P1. How he did it, that's what fans are up in an uproar about. We have drivers that are up in an uproar. So why don't we unwrap that a little bit, Don?
Listen, I want to make sure all of our listeners, all of our followers are very, very clear on something with Side Draft Media. We want to approach every situation and every circumstance with the most unbiased and sticking to the facts. We really try and stay away from hypotheticals. We're just going to lay it all out for you guys. This is not biased or unbiased towards Austin Dillon. This is not for or against Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin. This is just racers against racers and what happened. I want to make sure we all understand that before this conversation takes place, because this has nothing to do with the driver at hand. This is just how the race was won. I'm not going to be one to compare it to stuff that's happened with Joey Logano and Matt Kenseth or Dale Earnhardt and Terry Labonte and everything that everybody's seen pop up on social media. I'm going to approach this with Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin, and Joey Logano at Richmond Raceway summer 2024. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, NASCAR has an opportunity to fix something that they've created that's not going to go well for them if they don't fix it. And what I mean by that is if they allow the precedent of drivers basically bulldozing their way to a finish, a checkered flag, it's going to ruin a lot of potential ratings in the future. As far as I'm concerned, we don't want to be in a situation in Phoenix where guys are just straight plowing each other just to get to the finish of this race. That's not going to be good. I had people saying it wasn't a great race. No, yesterday was a great race. It was a questionable finish. We even discussed that we were going to have a full episode talking about tire strategy, and in the matter of one turn on one lap, this entire episode of Side Drive Media changed. Every episode of Denny's show and Dale Jr.'s show and Kevin Harvick's show, that all changed in the matter of one turn at Richmond. And as far as Austin Dillon and the 3 car is concerned, we all saw it. And I hope Austin Dillon fans are listening too, because we've read so many comments last night and today of Austin Dillon fans being excited and happy and, yeah, I did it for Dale and this, that, and the other. Okay, fine. You know, I love the enthusiasm. I love the passion. That's what our sport needs from our fans. That being said, you can't purposely go down the back straightaway and plow the 22 car out of the way, because what that created was an accordion all the way through turns 3 and 4, because now everybody's checking up for Joey because they don't know where he's going to end up, right? And then you have the situation where, and we all heard the playback from his spotter and the things that were said over the radio. Carlo, and I'm paraphrasing here, guys, but Carlo, wreck him, and then expletive, heck yeah, whatever, get to the finish line. Listen, it doesn't matter if you're 36th in points or you're first in points. We can't do this. I was upset for the race as a whole to see it finish like that. I want to see Austin Dillon fans happy and excited that they're in the playoffs, but I don't know how you hold your head up high when that's the way you got there. Now we can take the Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano aspect out of it. That could have been 2 of the favorite drivers. If that was Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney, this is a completely different conversation where Austin Dillon probably has to go into hiding for the next month just to avoid. Half the crowd is Chase Elliott fans. All right, so I'm getting off topic. I'm getting hypotheticals, and I don't like that. What I'm saying is it doesn't matter who he did it to. That's irrelevant. You can't do that. You can't be 3 car lengths back on the back straightaway. Austin Dillon had a very strong car. He had an incredible race. Hats off to that 3 team in RCR for the car that they put on the racetrack yesterday for him to go get a victory. Cautions happen. We'll get to Ryan Preece and Ricky Stenhouse. We'll unload that a little bit later. But that caution, the average, I think we discussed it 2 weeks ago or last week. The average last caution comes with about 5 laps to go. Well, you know what? This one came on 5, so numbers are pretty damn close. But you just, man, it's so hard because I want to be excited for the 3 team. I want to be excited for RCR and getting a car in the playoffs. I don't want to see drivers getting run over for no reason. I don't want to see Denny Hamlin hurt. Denny Hamlin is good for the sport. Whether you like him or not, Denny Hamlin is good for NASCAR. I don't want to see him hurt because he got hooked into the wall at 150 miles an hour when he's very cleanly going by Austin Dillon. Very cleanly. It's just, it sets a bad example. And then that's basically telling all these teenagers that are racing in late models and street stocks. And, well, I saw Austin Dillon do it in the Cup Series. So, hey, Saturday night racing, let's get after it. But you don't want, come on, guys. Like, we've got to figure out a way to police that situation a little bit better. I don't want to see a win taken away from Austin Dillon, even though it would benefit my drivers. It would benefit my drivers. I don't want to see that happen to Austin Dillon and his fans. But I would understand if something along those lines does happen. Now, do Do I believe NASCAR is going to strip that win? No, they probably would have done it Sunday night and handled it then. Do I think he's
I
going to get a
agree.
fine and points? Probably. Do I think that's going to affect his playoff hopes? He's in no matter what. But as far as getting into the next round, he's going to need to win. He's not going to be top 12 by the end of the first round of the playoffs. So I think NASCAR is in a very sticky spot as far as policing video game type antics on racing. And as we get closer to the playoffs, these guys are going to get more desperate. And as these playoff guys get into their rounds and they get into the final leg of each round, you just don't want to see this, guys. We don't want to see torn up race cars. If you're a fan of seeing torn up race cars, go watch a demolition derby or something, guys. Like, that's not what NASCAR is. I know it happens. I know we get accidents and they can be exciting and they can, it gives everybody something to talk about and stuff like that. But what happened last night was not okay. I think that it's very important that NASCAR sets some sort of precedent and uses Austin Dillon as an example to make sure that we're not destroying race cars just to get to a checkered flag. That's not good. It doesn't look good for racing. Was it entertaining? Absolutely, 100%. Yes, it was entertaining. That's not the point. That's not what we're trying to produce as fans of the sport. And I know my rant went a little bit long on this one, but I had some viewpoints on it that I wanted to express to our followers. I think it's very important that NASCAR really, really just lays something very hard down to make sure this type of situation doesn't form again. Because Austin Dillon could have easily rolled second place and come home without a playoff spot and went on to Daytona, possibly Michigan and Daytona with a chance to win one of those races. Who knows? I understand Austin Dillon's mindset of, I saw an opportunity to win, so I took it. But not like that, guys. We can't. They just can't, man. Like, and I try and keep emotion out of it, but this is an emotional situation as far as what actually took place. Denny Hamlin took a bad hit, man. Like, he took a very bad hit, and it was because of the decision Austin Dillon made to come back down across the racetrack after someone in his ear said, go down, wreck him. And then that's exactly what happened. So I don't know, man, Ryan. I took up about 7 or 8 minutes there. Give me your thoughts on it, man.
Well, I agree with a great handful of the takes that you had on this, and I'm glad I had a night to digest this. We're not filming this the night it happened.
Right.
We put some reason behind it. We put some statistics behind it. We have SMT data. We have all the different angles of replays and and I want to you talked about NASCAR having the ability to make a precedent so this type of thing is policed better going forward. I agree that they absolutely need to use this opportunity to try to make a precedent because um we could revisit what happened in Martinsville with Ross Chastain. Now, completely different scenario. Ross Chastain took his car full send on a video game mode, rode around the wall, and drove his way into the playoffs past X amount of cars
Into
to
the
do it.
championship 4.
Yes, to get into the championship four. There was no rule in the rule book saying you couldn't do it then. There is now because of safety.
Right.
It's and NASCAR doesn't want. Well, I mean, Ross did it. Everybody's going to full send and give it a try. I mean, no. I mean, it could actually be a big safety issue, and I see that in this sense as well, to where you got to care about driver safety. Now, if you have drivers like Bubba Wallace getting a fine for dooring somebody, at 20 miles an hour versus full on racing for it and right hooking right rearing somebody, um, you know, then there absolutely needs to be a fine for this,
Right.
hands down. If there's not a fine for this, NASCAR community is going to be in an uproar. NASCAR as a sanctioning body will be viewed at as a joke
Right.
because you need to establish where the line is and where to not cross it. And
Right.
now, historically speaking, the push that we saw entering on Joey Logano, getting up to him, giving him a shove. Historically speaking, that's happened for decades in NASCAR racing.
Right.
Okay, it's that's something that NASCAR celebrated 75 years last year.
Last year.
You know, we've seen it historically. We've seen drivers duke it out in the pits after back in the day, for things like this. And NASCAR's policed that. NASCAR doesn't want to be MMA. If you like MMA, go watch MMA.
Right.
We like altercation. We like drivers being able to have their personality expressed, behind the wheel and in the garage area. That's things that people tune into. That's entertaining, but we don't need to. You're absolutely right. We don't need to get into a precedent of dumping people to win races, because I personally I personally, as a race car driver, wouldn't want to win that way. However,
Right.
on the other aspect of that, Austin Dillon, let's call it how it is. Austin Dillon hasn't had a career full of wins. Okay. And in general, at this level of NASCAR racing in the Cup Series, the best of the best, it is very, very hard to win a race. It's extremely hard. Okay.
There's a reason that great drivers don't win championships and don't win races when they come up to the Cup level,
Yeah.
because it's
And
hard.
and NASCAR has also set a platform to where winning matters to get into the postseason, to get a chance to hoist a championship trophy.
Right.
So in Austin Dillon's defense, I understand the pressure that one feels as a driver to put your team in the playoffs when you have that opportunity in front of you.
Absolutely.
Now, that being said, on the restart, Joey Logano passed Austin Dillon for the lead, fair and square.
Fair and square, 100%.
Fair and square. Austin then was running him back down, and I don't, he didn't have enough time to catch him. And of course, he naturally waited to the last lap, because we know what happens if you take the white flag under caution. It's over.
Right.
If you take the last lap and the caution flag comes out, it's over. So he has to do something in an effort to move the 22 and get underneath him and make a pass. Now he goes down the back straightaway into towards 3 and 4, and the 22 gets the boot. He's pushed him up, and he's going underneath him, but trying to control his car at the same time. Denny Hamlin, who's not involved in this at the moment, he's running the lane that we've seen a majority of the drivers run the entire night, where you enter, how you turn through the corner to get through and get the best launch down the straightaway. Because if you remember, Richmond Raceway is kind of a D-shaped short track, so you want to get that right launch angle off of the turn to get down properly. So Denny's running what I would consider the preferred line on the lower line,
which he was entitled to.
Which he's entitled to. And I will say this too. As a race car driver on the last lap, you're not entitled to give anybody any inch of space, okay? You're fighting for a win. Where Austin Dillon is entitled to where he's at on the racetrack too. Their paths on SMT data, because of the launch angle that Denny's taking. Now, mind you, Denny's wheel is straight, okay? On SMT data, Denny is not turning up the track. He is riding the racing groove, the preferred line, to come to that start and finish line and try to get there before the 3 car. It looks like he's going to make that pass, right? And you hear the data. Now, if you have not seen this video of in-car camera with Austin Dillon, and then hearing what appears to be his spotter in the ear, telling him, here's where we are. I had to listen a few times. I had to listen on low volume. I had to listen on louder volume. I wanted to make sure I heard what I heard for my own ears. And I didn't hear wrecking. I heard wreck him.
Correct.
Wreck him. Okay. And it's been clarified by not just my ears, but many others.
Right.
This video is on Side Draft Media. Well, if you go on to sidedraftmedia.com, by the way, we have a brand new website. Go
Our
check it
website
out.
is hot. Shout out Nathan. Man, he has
Yeah.
been incredible on that thing.
But if you follow our social media at Side Draft Media on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's there for you to go watch. So I advise you to go watch it if you haven't, because we tried to provide as many of these tools so you can formulate your own opinions. Again, we're presenting what was there. Okay.
What was
And we
given to
saw
us.
we saw the SMT data today. Okay. That was released to us and the NASCAR community today. You see the videos, the trajectory, the paths, the steering wheel data on the 3 car. He turns left and right rears Denny Hamlin. Okay. So we're going to, again, call this what it is. They make contact. Denny's up the track, wrecking. Austin Dillon drives underneath him, takes the checkered flag, and wins the race. And has 2 enemies in Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano at the end of the race because of how they were raced. And I mean,
I'm gonna have to interrupt you real quick because you said 2 enemies, but I think he pissed off a lot of drivers last night, my friend. And again,
I do too.
This is not against Austin Dillon. I'm just calling how I see it as a NASCAR. I want to say personality now. How I saw it is he upset a lot of people. If you watch everybody cross the start finish line, Tyler Reddick runs up behind him and gives him a little shove. And I don't think that was on accident. I think that was purposely, hey, that was messed up, dude. That was not okay.
Yeah.
So.
And we talk about safety, right? We review that. And again, that's the reason why a move like Ross Chastain's was banned on the last lap. Desperation attempt. NASCAR's got their hands full with this one. They really do, because they like I said, like you said, they have the opportunity to make a precedent. Elton Sawyer, who is the vice president of officiating, last night post race was caught in the garage area by all the beat writers, reporters, media crew.
They were right on top of him.
Everybody was right on top of him, and Elton Sawyer, out of his own mouth, said that it has not been in NASCAR's DNA, and this is quoting out of Elton Sawyer's mouth, to take away wins in this situation. However, they said that they would review all the data available, in-car audio, SMT data, all the different angles of video footage that they have. And if there's going to be penalties or any infractions, rule changes, whatever may be the case, they would talk about that on Tuesday. When you're watching this video, and we don't like to normally date our videos, it's going to be Tuesday. So we'll have some breaking news probably in NASCAR world, which we will share with you as soon as we know it. As soon as any press conferences go, I'll get the alert, and we'll make sure that we have the necessary posts. But one of the statements that Elton Sawyer did make in that conversation is that where they have to determine where the line is crossed, and they can make a precedent going forward to stop certain things from happening. And so, Elton probably didn't want to go too deep into it, of course, because he too wants to.
He's got a line to follow too.
Yeah, he's got a review, but NASCAR's got their hands full with this. I fully expect a fine. I'm not sure if there's going to be a fine based off of what happened with the 22, because that's been something that has been happening in NASCAR for decades. But where the issue really comes into play is that it looks so deliberate that what he does to the 22, and then he comes right back to the 11 and right rears him. And that's where I feel like the fine is going to play a factor. The fine will be for what the 3 and the 3 and the 11.
Correct.
Not so much the 22. And again, there's lines to be crossed. And I think when it comes to potentially jeopardizing another driver's safety and health, that NASCAR needs to take this seriously. And you can't hook people and get
Right.
and come in and what do they do about how drivers are racing for a win? I mean, going forward, because on that last lap, I mean, desperation kicks in, and again, NASCAR kind of created this situation in the sense that they make drivers have to win, and when you're a 32nd ranked team in the regular season point standings, and you have an opportunity in front of you that's been a rare opportunity for Richard Childress Racing. We all know, if you're a NASCAR fan, they have not been running well. Okay, this was it's great to see the 3 car up front. Okay, I want to see teams that aren't all, who doesn't like an underdog story? But I
Absolutely.
don't I don't want to see an underdog story like this. Okay, there's David and Goliath, and then there is um, you know how you beat Goliath. I mean, if you have to, I don't want to use the word cheat because that's not the right word in this, but
No, he didn't cheat.
if you have to use your car to manipulate the outcome of a race, then NASCAR needs to review what's legal in that situation and what's not. And it's up for NASCAR to decide and for us to accept it as fans, as media, and just make sure everybody's aware of whatever NASCAR is going to do. Hopefully it's something that, and again, you're going to have people that don't like what NASCAR is probably going to do, and you're going to have people that do like what NASCAR is going to do. Us having a pulse in the NASCAR community, there's a lot of people that are upset about this. I know that, like you said, the garage area, a lot of no comments, a lot of,
Right.
they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be misquoted or for anything to be misused. But when we check the pulse in the community, and we have some people that we can talk to, that's the responses we got. You got a no comment today. I got a no comment today. I got and then you have fans and people who have been lifelong supporters of this sport or for as long as they have. And you know, uh, as media personnel, it was media gold last night. I'm not going to
Absolutely.
lie, because again, the community's talking,
Right.
and the community's engaged, and they, some of them are excited and okay with it. And I'm not okay with right hooking somebody. Okay. If this
Correct.
happens at a higher speed racetrack like Michigan, the outcome could have been a lot worse. And you don't want to see that. You don't want to see anybody get right reared and hooked up towards a wall, even with these safer barriers, being as safe as they are. The Hans head and neck devices that everybody's mandated to wear, that these things do save lives, but that's nonsense racing, in my opinion. There's one thing for beating and banging where you guys are leaning on
Absolutely.
there's a difference between leaning on each other and wrecking each other, and
Right.
these lines are going to be blurry at times. There's going to be gray areas, but I do believe NASCAR can certainly step in, and that's my thoughts and opinion on it. Again, these are my thoughts and opinion on it. I'm not trying to be biased towards anybody. I believe that naturally, if I was leading the race like Joey Logano was, I would be absolutely furious. If I was Denny Hamlin and got right reared, I'd be absolutely furious. If I was Austin Dillon and in a position where my team hasn't been as good and I know I could put my team in the playoffs, I'd probably do whatever it takes as well. But I would try not to do it as dirty as it looked.
Right.
And again, these are my opinions, but I understand where each one of these guys sits in this situation, and where guys like Tyler Reddick, like you said too, went up and gives them a nudge. That wasn't a congratulation nudge. We know
No.
the difference.
Right.
Tyler even said, had some comments after the race. He didn't want to get too into it, but he wasn't happy with how it was. Of course, his team owner was one of the drivers dumped. So, there's just so much things. Bubba Wallace was quoted saying, "I was going to go up and shake his hand for a deserving, win." And then the race played out like it did. And I don't want to do that anymore. So Bubba makes his comment, and I'm okay with that comment too,
Right.
because as a driver, there's a certain way you want to be raced, and there's also a safety aspect of how you guys who work closely together, whether you're not on the same team. Obviously, not everybody out there on the track is on the same team, and everybody's goal is to win that race. But there's a common decency that needs to
Respect.
and respect that needs to exist. And you're going to have drivers have their feathers ruffled from time to time on how they race, whether the slot job and you or your block, or there's different scenarios, but this was kind of extreme in my opinion. So
Yeah, absolutely. You said it so well, Ryan, and I'm really glad we were able to get this out together. Just so we can kind of express how we feel about it. And again, I'm not one for hypotheticals and fake
no,
scenarios, but can you imagine if somebody like Bubba Wallace had done what Austin Dillon did last night?
I mean they
And
would the fans and the NASCAR in the NASCAR world that already send so much hate this guy's way
can
would
you imagine? I
ask him to
mean,
be kicked out of the sport. I mean,
oh, they would have
how it
been
would be.
pitchforks and flames, man. There would have been
Yeah,
pitchforks and flames headed to his house, wherever he lives. I'm not going to disclose that,
yeah.
but
It would have been ugly, and just the same as if Chase Elliott was the one dumped, like you said, the hypotheticals don't need to be there. But when it's your guy or your driver, obviously it changes how people formulate their opinions. Or if
right,
it's somebody you even dislike, I mean, we're media. Our goal is to try to be as unbiased as possible.
correct,
But we grew up fans of this sport. There are going to be certain drivers that our personalities flock to more, and that's okay. As
right,
media, even, I mean, the media you see at races like Bob Pockras and all these others, personalities mesh better than others, in certain instances. And I'm sure they would even agree with that. But
right.
we try not to show our favoritism to one area or another. And like I said, I could put myself in all three of those situations that happened last night,
Absolutely. I
and
think that's
and
something
and
that's
and
real.
weigh in.
Right. That's something that's really important for us to establish as we grow and get as we're going on this journey as our show gets bigger with you guys. Is we're not here to jump on one person more than the other just because we like someone or dislike someone. I don't really dislike anyone in the sport. I'm going to be honest with you. I
Right.
thoroughly enjoy the entire fields, all the way across trucks, Xfinity, you name it. I love racing. I don't care who's behind the wheel. Do I have guys that I root for? Yes. I don't hate any of these guys. They're all out there trying to make their bread for their families, just like we do Monday through Fridays, or if you work weekends. Respect to everybody and the way they earn their bread. Same thing with these guys. I don't dislike any of these guys, and I don't want to see anybody hurt, and I don't want to see races won and lost like this. So
Hmm.
that
Absolutely.
kind of segues into something NASCAR can look at moving forward. This is something I kind of threw on social media. I know it got some reacts on Instagram as far as the win and you're in situation, Ryan. How hard would it be to adjust the win and you're in format to let's try a season of taking the top 16 in points. I don't care if you have a win in the Cup Series in the regular season. If you're 32nd in points, your butt is 32nd in points. And again, I'm not attacking Austin. This is just a scenario we've been given. But you have a win. Okay, that's going to jump you up to, I think he's up to 26 in points. That's 10 drivers that have had a better season up to date than Austin
And
Dillon that he leapfrog, and I don't understand how that makes sense in the rule writing. It's a very strange concept, and it's creating very very unsafe situations as we've seen from time to time.
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's not much we can do to change that and alter even people's perspectives. And I get that, and I respect your thoughts on that. And this would be a statement that can summarize this perfectly. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Right,
And that's really what it is. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, wins should matter, but uh, at this type of scenario, they got to do something. And drivers are upset, as in Logano, Hamlin, and Logano was even asked about payback. And that's something that he's had his run-ins with people before, and got even. So we'll see how NASCAR police that even going forward,
Right.
and that leads us into our next race, Michigan. you know,
Yep,
there's more
absolutely.
races, guys. That we get to go back racing again this weekend, and we'll see how it plays out. How is Austin Dillon respected on the track? Going forward, and do drivers try to put it behind him and move on because he's going to be out there, and it's going to happen.
I think
So
some drivers will let it go and not put themselves in a situation to one ruin their race or ruin their playoff. The playoffs are looming, guys. Whether we like it or not, they're coming, and these guys got to be very careful with the way they approach the next 3 weeks, and they don't want to get themselves in point trouble because they wanted to send a message to Austin Dillon and that three crew.
yeah,
So
and
everybody's got to be very careful with how they move forward and kind of just approach the next 3 races because, like I said, you don't want to put yourself and your team in a bad situation that could have been avoided.
Yeah, and you talk about the playoffs coming. I want to take this time to talk about some of the positives going forward because
Yeah,
we
let's talk
got
about it.
quite we got quite the battle shaping up in the regular season championship. Okay,
Yep.
NASCAR has two championships, as we know. There's the regular season, which rewards all the consistency and everything leading up to these postseason, the postseason that we talk about. We had a driver that again has been super consistent. Finished second again this. Well, they changed it. Finished third. And Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick has leapfrogged Chase Elliott in the regular season point standings. He's only 5 points behind Kyle Larson now. That's one race, and Tyler Reddick could be the points leader in the regular season. 6 points out is Chase Elliott, so he by no means is out of the regular season race for the championship. And so is Denny Hamlin with 21 points out. So something to watch going into Michigan. Three of those drivers statistically have been really good at Michigan. And Tyler Reddick is the odd man out there. Hasn't had the runs that, as far as average finish is concerned, if you look up the statistics like I do, because I'm a nerd, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin definitely rank a little bit better statistic wise at Michigan than Tyler Reddick. And then the guy in fifth place, he's 77 out. So I mean that's getting tight with 3 races to go. That's a lot of points to make up on four other really good cars and teams.
Right.
Is Ryan Blaney, who also has a win at Michigan and runs really well there.
Yep.
As far as the playoff picture, Austin Dillon is now, as of right now, locked into the playoffs.
13th
He's in
place.
he's in that 13 spot. As we know, the cutoff is 16. 16 drivers make the postseason, folks.
Yep.
Bubba Wallace is now above the cut line. He too has been, like his 2311 teammate, on a tear lately, putting together great runs, great finishes, getting stage playoff points, and really climbing up. Martin Truex is plus 78. Actually, I had misspoke earlier. I thought he was plus 81. He's
Right.
plus 78. Ty Gibbs plus 18. And Bubba Wallace, like I said, is now above the cut at plus 3, which bumped Ross Chastain out -3. Chris Buescher also tied with him at -3. So Chris Buescher won this race last year at Michigan, and the RFK guys are typically strong. The Fords look to be strong this weekend. It seems to be a track that they always rise to the occasion. Of course, there's Michigan is the manufacturer battle because Detroit, Michigan, and auto manufacturer union being from there, and it's always a fun race to a rise to the occasion race for these manufacturers. They kind of want to slug one out, and as far as bragging rights on the track, who wins that race manufacturer wise, and
Right.
I think it's going to be a fun race. Michigan is again a 2-mile intermediate track, lots of passing lane opportunities,
Opportunities. Yep.
I think it's going to be interesting to see after last week's drama how this week plays out, and could have playoff implications again if we have a new winner again this weekend.
Yep.
Any of that's possible still. So the Martin Truex, the Ty Gibbs, and Bubba Wallace are not safe if we get three new winners.
Yep.
And they're not one of them, because we have this race in Michigan. We have Daytona, which is a complete wild card, and then we end the regular season at Darlington. So, and then we start that round of 16. So things are getting tight. Things are getting exciting. I'll go ahead, because we're running tight on time. I'll give you my pick for the winner this weekend and my dark horse. I talked about the Fords being good. Christopher Buescher is defending champion of this race, but I'm not going to go that direction as far as my race pick. But I'm going to give you my dark horse first, and I don't know really why this name just really jumped out at me when looking at the playoffs picture, and the runs that they had last year at this track. Trackhouse Racing was pretty strong. I'm gonna actually put Ross Chastain as my dark horse pick this week, and that's only because they haven't been running that great. So I'm gonna say, after they ran really strong there as a team last year at Michigan, at Ross Chastain tries to win himself into the postseason this weekend as my dark horse pick. My favorite pick for the weekend is in a Ford. I really like Ryan Blaney this weekend. His name just jumped off the page to me as well. This seems to be a track that suits the Fords, and Penske's going to be strong here. So Ryan Blaney is my pick.
Love it, man. Those are great, great picks. As far as Ross, Ross seems to do really well when the pressure is mounting, and I think that's why we saw such a good race out of him this past weekend. Granted, his teammate, they found something special. Along with being the first ones on the tires, it looked like Suarez really just flipped a switch yesterday. So
Mhm.
hats off to the entire Trackhouse organization and the accomplishments they did with their two top tens yesterday. Um, a dark horse is going to be really tough. There's so many, just along with the guys that are still chasing those playoff berths. I really, as far as my dark horse, I'm gonna have to go with Ryan Blaney. I know that sounds weird as a dark horse, but there are just so many other guys that seem to just have things figured out right now, and Ryan doesn't exactly seem to be right up to speed with everyone. It just, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting right now. But I do see a possibility of him going back to victory lane at Michigan International Speedway. As far as my main pick, and at the risk of sounding like a homer, which I'm not, I don't do, I completely take these things unbiased and take them for what they're worth. I got to go with Tyler Reddick in that Toyota, man, because he is getting sick and tired of second place finishes. Now, I say yesterday was or Richmond was a second place finish, even though they scored Denny Hamlin second place with a weird caution timing and not letting everybody cross the line in order. So Denny Hamlin did end up ultimately second place in the Richmond race, pushing Tyler to third, Bubba to fourth, and Ross to fifth. I think Tyler is getting to a point where he's like, I'm done being the bridesmaid. I'm taking your words. I'm done being a bridesmaid. So look for
Yeah,
that look for that Toyota Camry to be really, really strong as soon as they unload. Look for Tyler to have his head down, and he's not messing around anymore. He should have at least 5 wins. I mean, it's getting silly at this point. As far as how his regular season has played out now, granted, all those second places are accumulating to possibly winning a regular season championship, where you have guys like Denny Hamlin with 4 wins, Kyle Larson with 4 wins, or maybe Denny's at 3. I can't remember exactly, but all these guys that they're chasing Tyler. That's because Tyler's been way more consistent than they have.
absolutely.
So look for Tyler to lift that trophy there at Michigan this upcoming weekend. It would be a phenomenal win for him headed into the playoffs. It would definitely help his teammate as far as keeping a new winner out of the way. So I definitely look for that 45 Toyota Camry to be special this weekend.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off that real quick. I don't hate those picks. Obviously, you got the Ryan Blaney pick in there, so we both see something there in the 12 team this weekend. But Bubba Wallace has actually been pretty statistically good at Michigan,
Yep.
so he too could be considered as a dark horse guy who needs a win to get in. So yeah, I don't hate it.
And I think Bubba is reaching a point in his career where he's not going to beat himself anymore. He's done all that. He's beat himself enough in the past. He's racing with a different mindset this season. You can really see it when he interviews. You can see it when the way he approaches the race when they unload that car for him. It's a different Bubba Wallace. Now the results still haven't quite been there. He's been in position to win a couple of these races. It just hasn't played out for him. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If they unload decent, he's gonna have a hand in this thing for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to see how it all plays out, my friend.
It's going
Looking
to be
forward to
great,
it.
Ryan. This was a great episode. I'm really glad we got to unpack Richmond and everything, all the events that took place. Shout out to our executive producer Nathan. Man, he has been behind the scenes, busting his butt. If y'all get a chance, check out the website sidedraftmedia.com. That thing is coming along great. I know he's excited for Austin Dillon's win this weekend. Got himself a playoff spot, so that's really cool for one of our partners to finally get himself a playoff spot, man. That's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as this episode, we got another one in the books, my man. We're gonna have to cut it short now because we're pushing that time limit. But I wanted to take a moment to thank every single person that is clicking on our links and watching our videos. It really means a lot, y'all. I get chills talking about it. We really feel like here at Side Draft Media that we're building something special for you guys, and we really hope that this is a long-term thing because for one, we're having a blast. I am having a blast. Ryan and Nathan, we're having so much fun putting this stuff together for you guys. We love the support. Make sure you don't forget all of our links. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. I know we don't like hearing it, but we got to say it. But Ryan, man, thank you so much from everybody here at Side Draft Media. I am Don, my co-host Ryan, Nathan behind the scenes, our executive. Thank you, everyone. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a great night.